My sister banned my kids from her wedding. After 2 years of silence, she showed up with gifts because she couldn't have children herself. Due to the possibility that my children may create discomfort, my sister did not invite me to her wedding. After being infertile for 2 years, she unexpectedly arrived at my door with gifts. My 11-year-old twin boys, who are on the autism spectrum, are my 38 Fahrenheit. To provide a stable atmosphere for children, my spouse and I have put in a ton of effort. They are wonderful children who simply require a little more help and tolerance than most. We've faced our fair share of difficulties, including grocery store meltdowns, that one awful school play, don't ask, and the ongoing struggle to obtain appropriate accommodations from the school district. But, for the most part, we worked it out. When I was little, my sister and I were finishing each other's sentences. We exchanged secrets, clothes, and everything else. When I discovered I was pregnant, I phoned her first. I supported her at every breakup, career problem, and other situation. When my boys were diagnosed, she was present. Or she seemed to me to be. She sat with me as I sobbed and brought over lasagna. About 5 years ago, she met her now husband, and things began to change. He is from an important family of some sort. They are merely wealthy and well-connected. They are not very significant. They act as like they are royalty because his dad served on the local council years ago or something. Over time, my sister began spending more time with his friends and family, which caused us to postpone our plans, the typical drift. Then it became every weekend. Initially, it was just, oh, Josh's mom invited us for dinner, or Josh's friends are having a thing. Then, they became the subject of every call. The boys took note. They would inquire as to why their aunt had stopped visiting. I didn't want them to feel rejected, so I fabricated excuses. I informed them that she was either traveling or working. I detest lying to my children, but what could I have said? Your new boyfriend thinks you're weird, so your aunt doesn't want to deal with you. Because that's how it seemed. I was pleased for her when they became engaged. I really was. I sent a card, flowers, and other things. She gave me a strange look and said, "I'll think about it," but she never mentioned it again when I asked if she wanted me to assist with wedding plans. I assumed she was occupied or something. I still purchased a dress because I thought I would somehow attend the wedding. I still have the tags on it and it hangs in my closet. Then one day, while browsing Facebook, yes, I still use it, don't judge me, I came upon a ton of photos from her wedding. I was not invited to a wedding. Not only was she not invited as a guest, but she was not even in the wedding party. My parents were present. There were our cousins. There were even a few high school acquaintances she hardly ever speaks to anymore. Not me, though, not my spouse. And certainly not my children. I called her right away, and to my astonishment, she did respond. She hesitated for a moment before responding that her in-laws didn't want any disruptions at the wedding and that my children would cause discomfort when I questioned her about what the hell happened. She claimed that although she fought really hard to include us, she ultimately gave in because she didn't want any controversy, and it was her special day. It's like my children are living drama machines. I was standing in my kitchen, looking at the dumb refrigerator magnet she had gotten me from her trip the previous year, and I can still clearly recall where I was when she said it. Sisters Forever was inscribed on it. While we were still on the phone, I removed it and tossed it in the garbage. I assumed my parents would be as indignant as I was, so I contacted them next. Not at all. In fact, they stood up for her. Stated that I should make an effort to comprehend her viewpoint and that sometimes difficult decisions must be taken. Perhaps it was for the best because my dad even dared to comment that such activities can be too stressful for my boys anyhow. As though they are more knowledgeable than I am about what's best for my children. As though we hadn't been organizing activities and excursions for years. I realized then that this was nothing new. My cousin's children were always treated differently than my boys. Less excitement and fewer birthday gifts. They brought my kids educational toys to help with their development. They would take my niece to the zoo, but they said my boys might not enjoy that kind of thing. They also bought my nephew a drum set, a 4-year-old drum set. And then I blocked them all. I modified my phone number, went across town. This sped up the process, but we had already planned to relocate since we needed a house with a better layout for the boys. My husband was totally on board. If it's possible, he was even more enraged than I was. In any case, he never really got along with my family. Because he works with his hands, they always treated him as though he wasn't good enough. God forbid someone chooses to work as a carpenter rather than spend their days in an office. We created a brand new existence, with pals who genuinely care about our family. We discovered a parent support group for children with autism. As a result, we became acquainted with other families. Our neighbors invite us to their barbecues, And they don't care if one of my children has to take a quiet period or wear noise-canceling headphones. Just regular folks that treat my children like children, you know. It was more than 2 years prior. Sincerely, I believed that chapter of my life was over. Occasionally, mutual friends would post about them, but I would simply scroll past them. Immediately following the wedding, I learned through rumors that my sister was attempting to conceive. Immediately starting a family, or whatever. Well done, I thought. She can have the ideal neurotypical small family that she has always desired. Then, unexpectedly, my dad, mom, and sister arrived at our front door yesterday. Included gift bags. These phony smiles, too. I inquired as to how they discovered our address. That question, which is really unsettling, was disregarded. Really, none of our mutual acquaintances would have given it to them without first asking me, and we weren't on the list. They probably hired someone or something, which further adds to the strangeness of the situation. Immediately, my sister broke down in tears, which is often her first reaction, and expressed how much she missed the boys and me. My mother said that they had given it a lot of thought and had come to their error. My dad was about to say no to something, and he just stood there looking uneasy, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he used to do when we were kids. Then my sister reveals the shocking news that she and her husband have been unsuccessfully trying for a child for the past 2 years. After a series of unsuccessful fertility procedures, she is now reevaluating the true meaning of family. As if reading from a Hallmark card, she said that same line. She discussed how her husband's family is pressuring them to continue the family name, despite the fact that they have seen 3 doctors and undergone IVF twice. For a minute, I just stared at them, trying to take it all in. My mother was nodding in agreement. As if it were the most intriguing thing he had ever seen, my dad was studying our porch light. My sister continued to ramble endlessly about how she had a revelation about what is really important in life. Then I told them exactly what I had assumed, that they are settling for my relationship since they are unable to have their ideal small family and only want a relationship right now. When they kicked my boys out of a family gathering because they were, what? They showed no concern for them. Feeling embarrassed? But my children are suddenly good enough now that my sister dearest is unable to have her own? My father attempted to interrupt me by saying something like, "That's not fair," but I had already finished. My children aren't emotional support animals that they can ignore and then pick up whenever it's convenient, I informed them. They were treated as though they were flawed, which damaged them as human beings. I reminded them that we used to get together every Sunday for dinner, but that invitation abruptly stopped when my sister began seeing her husband. At that point, my mother broke down in tears, accusing me of being unkind and claiming that they had learnt their lesson. My sister simply looked at me as if I had smacked her, which, to be honest, I had almost done. She persisted in reaching for this present bag as though it would make everything better. Out of the top, I could see a nice toy of some sort, just the kind of item that would overstimulate one of my guys and make them lose it. They couldn't even recall their basic characteristics. They should take their guilt gifts with them, I advised them. I closed the door after that. I could hardly turn the latch since my hands were shaking so much. However, the presents were left outside my door. Afterward, I tossed them in the garage. I informed my husband what had happened when he arrived downstairs after hearing the commotion. Even though he indicated I made the proper decision, I'm now questioning it. The problem is that over the years, my boys have inquired about their aunt and grandfather on a few occasions. I know they remember them, even though it's not often. I sometimes question whether I'm denying my children's family ties out of animosity. However, I also believe that allowing these individuals to return to our lives will only prepare my children for future rejection. What happens if my sister does, in fact, become pregnant? Will she abandon us once more? Will my parents once again treat my children as inferior? I haven't mentioned the visit to the guys. Thank God, it happened while they were visiting a friend's house. At the last minute, I switched shifts with a coworker. I was only at home because of that when they arrived. Here, am I the a-hole? For the sake of my children, should I have at least listened to them? Update. Holy shit. I had no idea this would go so out of control. I appreciate all of the support and comments. I will miss my inbox. However, a number of you misinterpreted certain points, so allow me to clarify. First, none of my boys are severely autistic. They occasionally struggle with social cues and have certain sensory difficulties, but with the right planning, they can definitely handle a wedding. They've attended past events without any problems. That was merely a pretext. Actually, one of them is really quiet and spends most of his time sitting and playing his games. The other one is more active, but if you explicitly explain the regulations, it complies quite nicely. Unless you consider any youngster who isn't completely silent to be disruptive, they aren't. 2. You weren't there for those who said, well, maybe they really have changed. My sister's expression when discussing her infertility problems was not visible to you. Re-establishing contact with family wasn't the goal. She wanted what she was unable to have. When I gave her a toy she desired as a child, she used to receive the same expression. 3. And no, they didn't offer an apology. Nobody said, I'm sorry, once in their little address. Now, it was all about their feelings and desires. How difficult things were for them. How it would be good for them to reconnect, nothing about the harm they had caused or how my children were impacted by their behavior. 4. My husband's family lives on the opposite side of the nation, so someone inquired about them. Although we video chat on vacations and they send birthday cards, they aren't really involved on a daily basis. That's significant though, because they've never been strange about the boy's autism. 5. And please go fuck yourself to the individual who sent me a private message accusing me of exploiting my children's disabilities as a justification for my anger. You don't know what we've endured. Anyway, since my post, a lot has transpired. Since the incident, my sister has been constantly messaging me. There was more sobbing and guilt tripping at first. She's acting rudely now, accusing me of being immature and punishing her for one mistake. One error? They ignored my family for 2 years after excluding us all from a significant life event. That is a sequence of intentional decisions rather than a single error. At around 2 in the morning, she also sent this strange SMS. Expressing her desire to be an aunt, and her envy of my motherhood journey. Who speaks in such a manner? It seems so staged and manufactured. When she would come over, this same person would ask me to make the boys wait in a different room because she found their stimming to be bothersome. I didn't answer when my parents called either since I assumed it was them. In their voicemail, they stated that they would like to meet in a neutral setting and talk things over like adults. To avoid having their previous numbers blocked, they apparently changed their numbers or something. My husband believes they are also full of shit, and I did wind up telling him everything they stated. He brought to mind how, rather than genuinely offering assistance or making an effort to understand, my parents continued sending us papers about cures, and recommending that we try various diets or other things when our boys were first diagnosed. I had nearly forgotten about it. Or when, in a loud whisper, my mother explained to a waitress that my kid wasn't being impolite when he didn't respond to her inquiry. He's just autistic, as if it were some embarrassing secret. Especially after the diagnosis, my sister would use this phony sympathetic voice to comment on how so hard having twins must be. Will they ever be able to live independently? She would wonder. When they were 4 years old. About a 4-year-old. Who asks? At 4, even neurotypical children are unable to live on their own. I'm still unsure about how to inform my children. I assumed I had received all of them, but one of them discovered a gift bag they had left behind and inquired as to its origin. I simply put it away after saying it was from an old buddy. Lying to children makes me uncomfortable, but I also don't want to raise their expectations about people who might vanish in the future. Lately, they have been doing incredibly well. A few of you asked if I would think about doing family therapy with them. Perhaps I will. But I'm just trying to take it all in right now. In order to escape all of this drama, my husband proposed that we go on a family vacation the following month, which sounds like a wonderful idea at the moment. A few hours away is a location with cabins beside a lake. On one school excursion, the boys went there and had a great time. Oh, and strangely, yesterday I received a friend request on Facebook from one of my mom's acquaintances, with whom I haven't spoken in years. They're probably attempting to obtain information now via other means. Of course, I ignored it. I may provide another post if something noteworthy occurs, but for the time being I'm attempting to concentrate on my real family, the individuals who have been here continuously. Second update. Alright, so a week or so has passed after everything happened, and certain things have happened. I didn't intend to post again so quickly, but I need to vent because things keep happening. To begin with, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who left a comment offering practical guidance rather than simply labeling me resentful, which, well, okay. No, Sig. I'm resentful. Would you not be? To answer your question, I haven't examined the gifts they brought. However, before publishing this update, I did investigate them. They remain seated in the garage for the time being. Thus, on Tuesday, my sister arrived at my place of employment. She just happened to walk in as I was working my part-time job at this little office. It's still really creepy where I work, and I don't know how she found out. I didn't want to make a scene in front of my coworkers, so I escorted her outside. We were in the parking lot and anyone might see us, so even though I was angry, I attempted to keep my voice down. She began her address by saying that she has been doing a lot of soul searching, and that learning that she is unable to have children has put things in perspective for her. Then, using the same strange whisper as if it were a secret, she began discussing how her husband had evolved in his thinking on special needs children. None of it sounded real, so I just stood there wondering if she was reading from a script. As she normally does when she is lying, she continues to check her phone during her conversation. She would make up reasons why she couldn't do anything with me, something she used to do when we were teenagers. She then went straight to the point. She wants to show them what real family looks like, by taking the boys and me to her husband's family's major reunion in a few months. She genuinely expressed her desire to demonstrate to them the extraordinary potential of exceptional children. As if my kids are some sort of pornographic inspiration for her in-laws. Then something clicked. This has nothing to do with getting back in touch with us. She is doing this to brag to her in-laws about having a relationship of any sort with her nephews. As if we were accessories in her life narrative. For example, my children are a backup plan or consolation reward because she is unable to have her own. I walked away after telling her I had to return to work. I need to stop living in the past, she called after me. It is rich coming from someone who, after her initial goal failed, now just wants a relationship. For the remainder of my shift, I was trembling. It was kind of my boss to notice and let me leave early. The problem is that if they had demonstrated any awareness of their mistakes, I might have thought about allowing them to re-enter gradually. However, people continue to treat my children as though they are unique, special, or something. Not only children, who should be accorded the bare minimum of deference. They continue to focus on themselves and their requirements. After that, I ended up answering my mom's phone yesterday from a new number I didn't recognize. She said that I'm being too harsh on my sister, who is inconsolable. Did you think it was wrong to exclude us from the wedding? I asked her directly. She merely mentioned complicated situations, and doing what seems best at the time, without providing a precise response. She eventually acknowledged that she felt the wedding wasn't an appropriate setting for children with issues, after I pressed her on the matter. She said exactly that. She referred to them as children with issues, without even mentioning their names or recognizing them as her grandchildren. I ended the call. I have had enough excuses and non-apologies. The suggestion that my children are inferior to other youngsters has been dropped. I'm tired of the way they skirt the true problem, which is that they're ashamed of my children and that they only want a relationship now that their situation has changed. After school today, my husband took the boys out for ice cream, and I finally got around to looking into those gift bags. It was just what I had anticipated. Generic items that demonstrated a complete lack of familiarity with my children. Things that are completely out of their age range or completely unrelated to their hobbies. One of the bags had a card and a check for a sizable sum of money. Just the check, no note. They seem to be attempting to re-enter our lives through financial means. I tore it to shreds. Their money is not necessary for us. For 2 years, we've been getting by just fine without it. Regarding my boys, I finally had a conversation with them last night and gave them the straightforward explanation that they haven't seen their grandparents or aunt in a long time since family members don't always treat one another properly. I didn't try to sway them or go into specifics. If they would meet them again, one of them inquired. Maybe someday, but not right now, I replied. I believe they don't remember as much about my family as I believe they did because they seem to take it really readily. When you're 11, 2 years is a long time. One of them said he recalled how delicious Grandma's cookies were. The other claimed he didn't enjoy the stench coming from Grandpa's house. It did smell like mothballs. They then inquired about their ability to play video games, and that was that. I believe that was the best course of action. It appeared to be acceptable to them. On social media today, my sister shared a cryptic tweet about forgiving people who don't know how to accept love, or something similar. Many family members used heart emojis in their comments. In their view of events, I suppose I am the antagonist. I'm good with that. So, yes. That is the current situation. Is the asshole still me? Perhaps. However, I would much rather be a jerk than allow my children to be used as emotional band-aid solutions to cover up someone else's sadness. Third update. I didn't intend to provide another update so quickly, but circumstances have become worse, and I'm still dealing with the fallout. Do you recall how I said my sister shared that ambiguous post on social media? Evidently, though, she has been posting far more frequently than that. I received screenshots of things my sister has been saying about me online from a common acquaintance, who is one of the only people who hasn't taken sides. In essence, she is portraying herself as a grieving aunt who merely wants to get back in touch with her nephews. And me, this vengeful bitch, using my children as weapons. In addition, she uses the hashtag number anti-love or something similar to it. She is disclosing details about my children, including their ages, the fact that they have autism, and even some old pictures of them, which greatly aggravates me. All for her naive supporters' compassion points. I'm thinking about filing a lawsuit since I feel that my privacy has been violated. My children didn't request to join her on social media. But hold on, things will improve. Or worse. In fact, the school called me yesterday to report that my parents had arrived in an attempt to visit the boys. They wanted to surprise them at lunch, so they told the office they were the grandparents. Fortunately, the school phoned me right away because they weren't on the authorized pickup list. I've never been more appreciative of school security measures. I immediately lost my shit and called my parents. I threatened to obtain a restraining order if they attempted something similar in the future. In fact, my dad attempted to excuse it by claiming that they didn't think it was a big issue and that they only wanted to see the boys. Is it not a huge problem to arrive at an elementary school without warning? How could that be considered normal behavior? My mother called and began sobbing once more, stating that they were in a difficult situation and had run out of options. I advised them to accept my boundaries for the first time in their life as an alternative. Just in case, I hung up and gave my friend a call to ask for guidance regarding restraining orders. I had to leave work early once more in order to speak with the principal of the school and ensure that they were aware of the circumstances. In fact, she was very encouraging and promised to add a note about unapproved visitors to the boys' files. I had the impression that I was involved in some strange custody dispute, only this time, the parties involved had no legitimate claim to my children. Then, at about 8 p.m. last night, the doorbell rang. My sister's spouse was standing there when I peered through the peephole. Not my sister, not my folks. Her spouse. The same man who believed my children were unworthy of attending his priceless wedding. I yelled at him to go or I would call the police, but I didn't open the door. Without a word, he pushed an envelope under the door and walked out. It had a formal letter from him in which he apologized for any misunderstandings and described how his marriage had changed him as a person. Another check, larger than the previous one, was also there. For the boy's future, he added in the memo line. As if we were in need of his kindness. It seems as though a public relations team wrote the entire thing. Nothing concrete about what he did wrong or why it hurt us is mentioned. It's all generalizations about family bonds and second chances. My husband simply laughed when I showed him it and remarked, "This guy still doesn't get it, does he?" All this is wearing me out. They seem to be deliberately wearing me down, as if they believe that if they persist, I will ultimately give in. The lads have also noticed how stressed I am. I sat them both down and assured them that we would not be leaving. That they were secure. That they didn't have to be concerned. I clarified that adult arguments can occasionally take some time to resolve. I was straightforward and comforting. After that, they appeared to be fine. However, I detest that they are even being impacted by this. In the event that we do require legal protection, my spouse recommended that we keep a record of everything that occurs. I've started recording all of the attempts to get in touch, saving voicemails and texts, capturing screenshots of my sister's posts, and other similar activities. It seems excessive. However, so is turning up at someone's place of employment or their children's school. My current strategy is to keep avoiding them as much as I can while still keeping my family safe. I've changed my email password just in case, blocked and locked my sister's new social media accounts, and updated all of our emergency contacts with people we truly trust. I still don't know if I'm doing this correctly. I suppose my current query is, how can I shield my children from all of this drama without having them feel as though a significant secret is being withheld from them? And regardless of how much soul-searching the other person professes to have done, am I mistaken in believing that some relationships are simply too broken to be repaired? Update 4. Well, my last update was a couple weeks ago. I haven't felt the need to update because things have finally settled down a bit, but I thought I should wrap this up for those who have been following along and given support. First of all, we appreciate all of your notes asking how we are doing. Even if they have never met me or my children, it means a lot to know that there are individuals who can relate to my situation. I had my friend's attorney assist me in writing a formal cease and desist letter to my sister and parents following the school incident. Although it doesn't have the same legal force as a restraining order, it does provide documentation in case the situation worsens. In essence, the letter threatened legal action for any more unexpected visits to our house, my place of employment, or the children's school. Interestingly, it appears to have been successful. To the best of my knowledge, my sister has ceased sharing information about us on social media, and there have been no more unexpected visits. In a brief email, my parents acknowledged receiving the letter and stated that they needed time to process everything. I'm good with that. In the end, my husband and I decided to go to the lake. For a long weekend, we rented a cabin and simply unplugged from the outside world. It was adored by the lads. They observed wildlife, gathered rocks, and learned how to skip stones on the lake from my husband. It was just what each of us needed. I've been thinking a lot about family and its true meaning. As a child, I always believed that family was something that could not be compromised. For better or worse, you are trapped with your family. However, as I've grown older, I've come to understand that family is actually about who supports you regularly, who embraces you for who you are, who makes an attempt to comprehend and assist you. I'm not sure if my parents, sister, and I will ever get along again. Perhaps one day, if they can show that they've really changed and are prepared to accept my children for who they are. I'm not holding my breath though. And I'm not waiting for it to happen by putting my life on hold. Something that truly resonated with me was mentioned by someone in the comments section of my last post. You owe nothing to the family you were born into, only to the family you have chosen. I think that's correct. We're just going about our lives for the time being. If nothing significant changes, I doubt I'll update again. Once again, I appreciate your support and listening. You have no idea how much it helped. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.